Ladies and gentlemen, the moment that we've all been waiting for has arrived. A special moment unfolds as we now witness the arrival of a distinguished guest, the Honorable Ranil Wickremesinghe, the President of the Democratic Socialist Republic of Sri Lanka and Finance Minister. May I invite you all to please rise from your seats in receiving our guest. Aibuan, good morning, Honorable President Ranil Wickremesinghe, distinguished guests, esteemed participants. It is with great pleasure and privilege that we extend a very warm welcome to you all this morning to the Budget Forum 2024 Tightrope Walk, Navigating Fiscal Challenges, organized by the MBA Alumni Association, University of Colombo, together with the Daily Financial Times. This forum promises to be insightful, bringing you discussions from expert analysis and a platform for engaging dialogue on the intricacies of managing budgets in today's dynamic economic landscape. As we embark on this intellectual journey, let us collectively explore the strategies and navigate as to how the fiscal tightrope can be apart successfully. Ladies and gentlemen, today's event wouldn't have been possible without our strategic partner. Could you please put your hands together for the Standard Chartered Bank, ladies and gentlemen? Our knowledge partner is Deloitte, and our creative partner is Geometry Global, ladies and gentlemen, while we say on behalf of the organizers of the event, the MBA Alumni Association, University of Colombo, and the Daily Financial Times. Ladies and gentlemen, to invite the following dignitaries to join us here on stage. Our keynote speaker, the Honorable Ranil Wickremesinghe, President of the Democratic Socialist Republic of Sri Lanka and the Finance Minister. We also invite the President of the MBA Alumni Association, University of Colombo, Mr. Kulendra Sivaram. We also invite Mr. Mahinda Sirivardhana, the Secretary to the Treasury, Ms. Chio Kanda, World Bank's Country Manager for Maldives and Sri Lanka, Mr. W.A. Vijayavardhana, former Deputy Governor of the Central Bank, Mr. Bingubal Thevara Tantri, the CEO of Standard Chartered Bank, the Chairperson of John Keells Holdings PLC, Mr. Krishan Balendra, Managing Partner, CEO, Deloitte Partners, Channa Manoharan, and we invite the Chief Editor, CEO of Daily FT, Mr. Nista Kasim, to please join us on stage. Can we give a round of applause, ladies and gentlemen, for our keynote speaker and our panelists. Thank you to our dignitaries. Ladies and gentlemen, to extend a warm welcome now, I have the pleasure of inviting the President of the MBA Alumni Association of the University of Colombo as he shares insights and sets the stage for today's forum. Please put your hands together for Mr. Kulendra Sivaram, ladies and gentlemen.
Good morning. President of Democratic Socialist Republic of Sri Lanka, Honorable Ranil Wickremesinghe, Patron of MBA Alumni Association, Vice Chancellor of University of Colombo, Senior Professor H.T. Karunaratne, Secretary to the Treasury, Mr. Mahinda Sirivardhana, Governor of Central Bank, Dr. Nandalal Veerasinghe, former Deputy Governor of Central Bank, Mr. W.A. Vijayavardhana, Country Manager, Sri Lanka, Maldives for the World Bank, Ms. Chio Kanda, our strategic partner, Chief Executive Officer, Standard Chartered Bank, Mr. Bingubal Thevara Tantri, Chairperson, John Keells Holdings, Mr. Krishan Balendra, Country Managing Partner, Deloitte Sri Lanka and Maldives, Mr. Channa Manoharan, our co-organizer, editor and Chief Executive Officer of Daily FT, Mr. Nista Kasim, distinguished invitees, members of foreign delegates, board CEOs and business leaders, fellow members of MBA Alumni Association. I stand before you all with a great honor as we gather for the Budget Forum 2024, hosted by MBA Alumni Association and Daily FT. We are graced by this esteemed presence of the President, Honorable Ranil Wickremesinghe, and other notable figures from public and private sectors. Honorable Sir, your presence at this post-budget forum signifies the significance of our collective efforts. The MBA Alumni Association committed to providing an apolitical platform for businesses and industry leaders, strives to foster informed decisions on national issues. With a membership around 1,000 professionals, both private and public sectors, we aim to stay at forefront of current affairs through seminars, conferences, and workshops. The budget discussion this year holds special significance with a distinguished panel of business leaders. As Finance Minister, you have steered our financial policies through challenging times, earning recognition and support from global entities such as the World Bank. Recent words from Managing Director of World Bank, Anna Bjerd, underscore the importance of continuing reforms for recovery and sustainable growth. The country applauds your efforts in reshaping world's opinion in our favor, and we encourage your unwavering commitment to our nation's prosperity. Now, we entrust the stage to the experts, and I am confident the ensuing discussion will provide profound insights into the economic trajectory of our country. The next few hours promise to enlighten us on how we will navigate the challenges and seize opportunities on the path to prosperity. In conclusion, there is a collective hope in this hall today, a hope that we carry with us a deeper understanding of the proposal presented, fostering a confident awareness for the prosperity for our nation. Thank you.
I would like to invite, maybe start from Krishan. I want the panel to sort of list one good thing and one concern so that we can do a quick check on the state of the budget. So one positive, one negative, and then take some questions and then President can respond.
He writes it down.
I think, no, I think we have our team taking it down.
One concern with the budget, of course, as always with all our budgets, is the revenue and expenditure numbers. I think the concern is that the private sector could get crowded out if there is a revenue shortfall because the government would have to borrow significantly from the market. If you look at it in the 1990s, the government's share of total credit was about 20%. It has, with the crisis, gone up to 60 or 70%. Now it should come down with the debt restructuring and funding from external sources from next year. But if we do fall short of the revenue targets, and given that expenditure is also quite high, there is a risk that the private sector could get crowded out with higher interest rates. One positive, there were a number of positives, but if I were to pick one, and this was a recommendation from the Ceylon Chamber as well, it is on the privatizations. Very good to see that the privatizations now are on track with the government calling for expressions of interest. But the statement in the budget that state banks, that 20% would be divested either to a strategic investor or in an IPO. I think finding a strategic investor for a minority stake might be a challenge, but certainly very exciting for the stock market as well, because the stock market needs the liquidity of having large cap stocks. We would strongly support it as a big positive that state banks would be listed on the stock exchange.
Thanks, Krishan. Bingumal?
Yeah, so we run a banking business in the emerging markets, Asia, Africa, and the Middle East. So comparatively, if you look at what's going on in some of the defaulted countries like Ghana and Zambia, Sri Lanka, of course, Lebanon, we don't want to compare. I think one big thing for Sri Lanka is how we have managed the inflation and stabilized the economy, and how we have improved the reserves. Now, there are near default countries, lost market taxes. Some of those countries are now going into a lot of stress on FX. So that's a big credit to the policymakers who controlled it. One big positive, again, adding to that is, I think we are well set to reach debt restructuring. And of course, the IMF, hopefully the board approval, because board approval is critical to get to the debt restructuring. And we see this budget as a typical budget where you do during a restructuring like this, and staying on course to make sure that you reach the IMF targets. So that's a big positive because we sometimes forget that we are in default. So we are still in default and we can't access the markets. The FDIs are there, but they don't invest still until they see a rating upgrade because there are significant challenges when you come to default country for those corporates in terms of risk. So that's a big positive in my view. I know it's very, very difficult, but I think the budget is from that perspective, we had to look at it positively. We are set to reach debt restructuring and IMF board approval. On the negative side, we are less optimistic on the revenue targets. I think we are looking at 13.1% of revenue to GDP. We believe it's very, very optimistic. We are less optimistic about those targets, and especially VAT going up to 60%. And in a growth is, I think, in our view, should be around 3% next year. And even if the inflation is 5%, your nominal growth will be 8%. So when the country's nominal growth is 8%, VAT growing at 60%, so we see a serious problem in the revenue plan. So that's a big negative. And also the taxing the younger population, we are lobbying against it because we believe that the revenue that you collect from the younger population is very small. You can do so many other things to get that right.
Thanks, Bingu. Chio.
Thank you. We're still reviewing the details, but then the good news or the positive part is that overall, in aggregate, at least it seems that the overall revenue, the primary revenue and expenditures seems to be in line with what the adjustment needed for macroeconomic sustainability. The concerns or the concern is that I share the concerns that already expressed by the panelists, but the one thing to add is to how the reforms can be communicated further, and then also so that understood by the public, so that the reform path can continue on track.
One positive thing that I might see in the budget is that the President Wickremesinghe has established a new budgetary philosophy that we must live within our income. In fact, this is a piece of advice that was given to Sri Lanka as far back as 1959 by John Robinson of Cambridge University, who visited Sri Lanka at that time. We failed to observe this. But we find that Singapore in 1965, right from the very beginning of independence, they started following the same principle. And the former finance minister, the first finance minister of Singapore, Dr. Goh Keng Swee, he had said that if Singaporeans want better public services, they must be prepared to pay for that. What it means is we have to live within our income. So this particular budgetary philosophy that has been established in Sri Lanka today has to be continued, and for that purpose we'll have to see how it might work in Sri Lanka for the next 25 years for the country to become a rich country by year 2048. The negative thing I see is that the entire revenue side of the budget has been overestimated. It's a black box. We don't see how the government is going to raise this 4.1 trillion revenue. And if the revenue is not being realized by President Wickremesinghe, what would happen is we'll have to resort to borrowing, and there are limited options available right now for him because he cannot borrow from the international markets by issuing international sovereign bonds. So he has to borrow money from the local market. But when he tries to borrow a huge amount of money from the local market, interest rates will go up, and it will interfere with the current monetary policy relaxation being done by the central bank, because the Dr. Nandalal Veerasinghe's problem today is completely opposite to the problem faced by the Federal Reserve Bank in USA. In the case of Federal Reserve Bank, the inflation rate is 3.5%, and the President and the Federal Reserve Bank has to bring it down to 2%. In the case of Sri Lanka, Nandalal Veerasinghe's problem is the current inflation is 1.5%. He has agreed with the parliament to maintain the inflation target at 5%. So he has to relax monetary policy further. But if President Wickremesinghe is trying to borrow money from outside, interest rates will go up and it will interfere adversely with the monetary policy package being implemented by the central bank. So that's the negative factor which I want to bring to President's notice.
Okay, thank you very much. Channa?
Yeah, so Mr. I think there are many positives in the budget. I've been made representation from the chamber on the digital economy side. I must congratulate the government and the president for taking on board almost all the recommendations that were made in terms of the digital economy and to bring the efficiencies that an adoption of the recommendations that the private sector made, and we work closely with the Ministry of Finance, and we see a lot of those recommendations have been brought on board in this budget. I think some of the positives is the commitment to the digital ID project, which is far delayed. It's almost delayed by almost 24 months. And the commitment to that, and then the efficiency that the digital economy concept brings to the table will, A, contribute to broadening the tax participation of people in paying taxes, where it will broaden the tax net, where the traceability in terms of people, transaction, and the strong foundation that brings in terms of building on a similar stack like the India stack, what we can do for Sri Lanka, right? So I think the recognition of the digital economy and also the institutions that are required to bring in the digital transformation in government. We see the AI, a body which is tasked for AI, we see a body tasked for digital transformation, and then the investment that is required to upskill our labor force in terms of relaxing the education sector, encouraging foreign investments in university and education sector here, and also investments in basically skilling, which has been something that we have been asking for a long time. We are, as a private sector, we are willing to take on board both graduates who are in IT and non-IT and make them basically to skill them to be able to kind of join the workforce. There is significant investment committed by the government in that. So those are the positives that we see. And we see that the efficiency that investment it will bring will be significant to the economy. The flip side to that is all the institutions that have been created, been proposed to be created, there are deregulation that have been proposed. The capacity of government to execute this within the kind of the human resource it has in government. And we see that, the cross-cutting nature of involvement of multi-government agencies is required. We have seen in the past that people sit with data, whether it's the, the driving license, whether it is the people data, all that government agencies have been not very efficient in collaborating. That's number one. The number two, the flip side to that is we have asked for some relaxation when it comes to labor mobility. In terms of what has happened is that our attrition in terms of the tech and BPM industry was around in the high teens. It went up to nearly 40% during the crisis, and now it has settled down around the high 20s. During this period, what happened was we lost the middle tier of our workforce, and they have migrated, and we see that migration trend due to the tax burden. And that's where Bingumal was saying, look, you're basically placing a tax burden on the high-paying, high-paid salaries employees. What we wanted was, look, it's very difficult to onboard freshers and build a talent pool without having that middle tier. So we have been recommending to government to allow us to have overseas workers to come and work in Sri Lanka. I think that is so mode 4. And to kind of not free flow of workers, but where firms are allowed to bring in both Sri Lankan and international firms who are domiciled in Sri Lanka to bring in a workforce from overseas and to basically allow them to work in the economy.
Okay.
One thing is that I want to make it very clear, there has been some, impression created that the tech industry is not for allowing people to come in. That's a myth. We really want people to come in and contribute to the economy.
Thank you. I won't move to secretary because he will be all positive. So can we have about 5 questions? Make it more macro because then it's important. You have the president to respond to some of the technical ones. We can give it to the treasury secretary. I think there's some mics around. Please, who would like to ask the first question? We don't want commentaries, but we want a question. And questions on the budget, please.
Yeah, actually, my question is to the president and team. Now I have seen that new concept called TIN has been introduced first time for this budget. Actually, this could have been introduced long time ago. Why it has been so much delay to introduce this type of good concept? My question is that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. My question is on budget proposal, that is the point number 39 on page 164 on dairy development. It says that within 5 years, the government is going to increase the production by 53%, and then again it says that that is to increase up to 20 million per day the liter of milk. But today the percent average is 1.3. So when you compare the percentage, that is 1,553. Then again at the end of that chapter it says it is 5-fold increase. So there is controversy. So I need to understand what does that mean, and that is my question.
Okay, thank you very much. Any more questions?
Yes, I'd like to just at some point from the panel find out. We find that the expenditure allocations have been increasing, and it is quite substantial in this budget as well. What is the kind of systems and processes that will be in place in the finance ministry to track how this expenditure is being managed, what it is being spent on, and are we getting the right kind of return from the expenditure that has been funded by the taxpayers?
Thank you. There's a question at the back.
My question is about, because when it comes to implementation of the budget, we need the public support. If people are not aware of what is happening and what the problem we are facing and how the budget is going to help the all in the society, it depends on whether the people are going to take it positively or negatively. The president will find it difficult to or easy to implement. My question is, what is the mechanism, President, that you are going to have to educate the public about the problems we have and about the sacrifices they will have to make at all levels? What is the mechanism? Thank you, sir.
Thank you. We also encourage questions in Sinhala as well, so please feel free.
සිංහලෙන් අහන්න. සර් දැන් අපි හැම අවුරුද්දෙම බජට් එකක් ප්‍රසන්ට් කරනවා. ලොකු හයිප් එකක් දාලා අපි බජට් එක ප්‍රසන්ට් කරනවා අලුත් ප්‍රොපෝසල්ස් එක්ක. ඒ වුණාට දැන් රටේ මිනිස්සු දන්නේ පහුගිය බජට් එක අපි අචීව් කරාද, ඒකේ ඔබ්ජෙක්ටිව්ස් අපි මීට් කරාද කියලා. එතකොට මං හිතනවා බජට් එක ප්‍රසන්ට් කරනවත් එක්කම රටේ ජනතාවට දැනගන්න පුළුවන් නම් අපි ගිය අවුරුද්දේ බජට් එක කොච්චර සක්සස්ෆුලි කොයි පර්සන්ටේජ් එකකින් අචීව් කරාද, මොකක්ද ඒකේ සක්සස් රේට් එක. එතකොට ගවර්න්මන්ට් එන්ටිටීස් වලට අපි මනි ඇලොකේට් කරනකොට ඒ ඇලොකේෂන්ස් කොච්චර එෆිෂියන්ට්ලි යූස් කරලාද නැද්ද කියන එක. Thank you.
Thank you.
My question is, while the TIN has been introduced as a mandatory document, but this budget lacks with constructive efforts to broaden the existing tax base. There have been a lot of inactive files with IRD, but budget is silent how those files can be made active.
Thank you.
Good morning all. Actually, there was a strategy introduced for Digicon 2030 a few weeks back. So I would like to know the allocations that have been made for digitalization and digital transformation of the public sector, specifically if we are to achieve what was launched a few weeks back according to the Digicon 2030 plan, and what are the strategies that the government would follow to enhance the digitalization and digital transformation process.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much for all these questions. I'll invite Honorable President to respond as well as make his keynote.
President of the Colombo University MBA Alumni Association, Vice Chancellor, distinguished members of the panel, and friends. It's very rarely that a finance minister is called a second time to address the association. Anyway, in this budget, I am also made a reference to the Colombo University. We've asked for plans for development. We are willing to fund it, but we must be able to go at least 100 points on the Times Index. That is the first thing. When you get there, we'll tell you to go another 100 points. But Sri Lanka universities must be world class. We are spending the people's money. So this is what I have left to the Colombo University. This is called a tightrope walk. I don't know whether I'm a tightrope walker. I feel more like a trapeze artist. So does the other members of the team. That's what we have been doing. Now, I listened to the observations and I thought I will start by giving a background to the budget. On the estimates and what has to be done, I will ask the Secretary of the Treasury to deal with those subjects in detail. Otherwise, I won't be able to go for my next appointment. What is this? I am not looking at this as a budget per se. And one thing I must say, the estimates can change. Especially, it depends on what happens in the Middle East. None of us can say that. So we are all keeping our fingers crossed that there will be a ceasefire in Gaza, making it easier for the people of Gaza and for the rest of us. But there are other issues also where the whole thing, the budget can change, not because of internal factors, external factors. Then what is this that we have presented? I have taken a leaf out of President Roosevelt. When he took over, the banking system had collapsed in USA and rest of it. His approach was not merely a budget. He introduced the budget, but he introduced a series of other measures, laws and other measures, which in 2 to 3 years' time introduced the New Deal. That's what we are looking at. Where were we? When I took over in July 2022, I was listening to Iran Vikramaratne yesterday in Parliament, and he said that we are trying to have them in a Disneyland. All I want to say is that yes, we were in the house of horrors of Disneyland, and I have just taken it out, and I'm taking them out of Disneyland because the Parliament seems to be like Disneyland. When you look at the opposition, they are living in a make-believe world. So to take them out of Disneyland in here, that's what I'm doing gradually. So what I have done is to spread what we are doing. First, stabilize the economy and reconstruct the economy. To do that, you can't do it in a budget, no. Budgets in the English Westminster sense is really the accounts, but there are much more to be done. In the US sense, they don't give budget that much of prominence. It is the rest of the laws that come in. So this is what we have done. The first was coming to an agreement with the IMF last year. In September, after doing so, I made the first statement in the House. Second was the budget of last year and the budget speech. This was mainly towards stabilizing the economy. Now we've gone ahead on that. We've come to the last stages of the bilateral negotiations. We have got responses from everyone, including China, and we hope when they sit in December this year that there will be positive results. So looking at that background, one was this budget. This budget had to conform to our agreements with the IMF. And that's what we have done. Secondly, as Dr. Vijayawardena said, there is nothing called a free lunch. Now we have to realize that. We have to live within our means, this government or next government or government after that. And that's what we want to introduce. However difficult it is to tell the country this is what you have to do. It may be unpopular, but you have to do it. You have to take a lot of unpopular decisions. But it's going more than that. This budget, the speech I made and the proposals I made is not merely about stabilizing the economy. It is the new economy that we are going to reconstruct. And I will deal mainly with that, leaving the technical issues to the ST. We have to look out. Some say this is election budget. This is more a budget for a new economy in which the people have benefited. You had to give a pay increase to the government servants. I would have liked to have given more, but I am not in a position to do so. Even this we have to start paying gradually after the first 3 months. To give the pensioners, you must realize how difficult it is for people to live. You know that in your own places. We are asking the foreign, as far as the private sector is concerned, I think it's up to you because some of you have already made adjustments. We hope the others will make adjustments, but we will intervene and I will speak to the plantation companies which come under the finance ministry now in regard to the plantation workers. So those are pay increases that we have to give. Secondly is Aswasuma. We have increased the expenditure about 3 times, from 60 billion to how much? To nearly 183 billion, 3 times. Why have we done this? This is no longer a political system. It's a part of the new social contract that we are building. We have to pay for everything. If you want a good government service, as you said, pay for it. But you have to look after the people who can't afford to pay. Then the money we give under Samurdhi was not sufficient. And we have to select those who are deserving. So we increased it 3-fold. It was done after discussion with the IMF and the World Bank. All of us have the same view, that we have to increase. Then the money that we have given for SMEs, which we are starting with when you leverage, is about 250 billion. We felt that's what that could be taken in the first year. And then the big one, the biggest privatization in Sri Lanka. We are giving about 2 million acres to the people. They will no longer be permit holders. They will be owners. We are also giving the apartments in Colombo for them to own. Remember, we took them out of lands which were worth about 15-20 million a perch. Now, even if they were squatters, even if you are going to buy the land, you would have given them at least half the money. So they have already paid for their, by removing them, you have already paid for it, for the land. But it's more than that. There are two. One is, we are adding about anything, people, some say 500 million, others say even go up to about 2 trillion into the economy. Those type of assets, a larger number was written off during the COVID. Now we have put it back. And put it back not at the top, but at the bottom. And the banking, the credit system will expand in the next 2 years. You can see the smile on his face. But that's good. That's one way of making the economy grow. But the economy is for everyone, not for a few. For some, it's the stock exchange. For others, it's going to be this. And I'm just carrying out the guiding principles of the Constitution, 27(2)(f), where it has to be dispersal of ownership among all the people and not be concentrated. Similarly, 27(8), which says the wealth also has to, one is the means of production, other says the wealth. So you've done both. Now it's a question of how we make it grow. I'll come to that. That is one part. Then we are happy about the banks being partially privatized. No, we are going to keep nearly 60% in the holding companies. But in the process of privatizing, we'll ensure some part is given to the employees, but depositors must also have the ability to buy the shares. We'll make a special concession on that. So if you are a depositor, it's not only you. Remember, between the People's Bank and the Bank of Ceylon, the large number of ordinary people who have purchased shares. We are looking at institutional investor, but even otherwise I am not too worried because there will be enough people from Sri Lanka and others who will invest. It's not the big accounts in the city office. What I am looking at are the people who are there in Kakirawa, in Valikanda and other places. So our one is to expand ownership, make people the stakeholder, and in the future enable them all to come into the stock exchange. We'll do that in every other, we would like to promote it. So that's the principle. Expand ownership. Let more and more people have a stake. Now someone told me, why are you giving this to the farmer? I said, if you want, they suffered for 2 years without fertilizer. At that time it's good for them to suffer. Now you don't want to give them. So under the Crown Lands Ordinance, State Land Ordinance, we don't need new legislation, we'll just start giving it. So, but with this, our idea and that have been accepted is a highly competitive economy, which we have made for it. Then digitalized economy. So most of what you say have been accepted. Some of them want to know how I am going to implement it with the present government machinery. I can't. So I am asking the private sector also to join it. It's a national effort. Either we get out of this and go in a new direction, or we fall, because you can stabilize the economy, you can have debt sustainability. If your balance of trade is against you and you haven't got your budget is in deficit, look, in the long run you can write it off. So we will give you all the help, and I think we have to focus on it. This is why we want to have a Business and Innovation Council. You have to commercialize your inventions, a digital agency, which will transformation agency, which will get into. We have to move fast. And yes, the government sector has not moved on many of it, but I have given them time, and the government state is intervening. At the center we are intervening to ensure things are getting done. If you can't do it, we'll give to someone else. That's all. The job has to be done. So that's the notice there. And then we have to do AI. Artificial intelligence is essential. So we are giving attention to AI. So these are the 3 areas, as I said, we are going ahead. We want to finish digitalization as fast as possible. So let's set the goals and go ahead. I want to put it to Parliament, so everyone will agree on these goals. And basically, a lot of it will have to be done by the private sector. Look, we haven't got the money. So we are asking the private sector to take over. And this is one of the reasons that we are privatizing Sri Lanka Telecoms. So that's one region. Secondly, we are going for the energy transformation. If you look at our solar energy capacity, have we looked at the whole of the dry zone? No, we haven't. We are looking at our tanks and our canals, other places. So just look at the potential and the wind power. Basically, we want an excess which can be converted to green ammonia or green hydrogen or sold to India. Now, Singapore is putting a power line to India. If we are sufficient, why don't we join that power line at some place? So these are the ideas. We have excess energy. We are a small country. We are not going to heavy industries. So let's get into that area. Energy. The whole energy transformation, that is necessary for the green economy. We've already got our climate prosperity plan. I mean, we have to raise something like nearly $100 billion till about 2040. A lot of it has to be done by the private sector through green bonds. So let's get into one of the first Asian economies. And we have a separate unit in the Ministry of Finance looking at both green financing and debt relief. Though we have, in a very short time, have a sustainable debt, many of the other countries aren't, and Sri Lanka is committed to all the low-income countries' debt being written off. So we are getting into the international fora on writing debt off and how we can handle it. Because the next big debate will come in Doha as to the loss and damage and how much the West is going to contribute. Is it only for the island states or is it going to be more? So this is a crucial meeting that we will have. We won't achieve anything, but we will but we know the direction that we are going. And Sri Lanka's contribution is going to be the International Climate Change University. We set up in Kotmale, and we are setting up a panel to look at a tropical belt. An idea that if we focus all the resources on the tropical belt, which is the most biologically diverse area, then the impact will also be on the other parts of the world. So we are going ahead with it. These are commitment, and we are fully committed to the green economy, and we want to be the first in this area. So those are the areas for you to look at. That's the future. I'm just telling the private sector. On this, we are going ahead. Then comes our agriculture modernization. We have never touched agriculture. Even after Mahaveli, we just neglected it. Our average is 3.5 metric tons a hectare. Australia has 10. But in off Munragal Hambantota, we make 11 metric tons a hectare. So we want to focus on the dry zone. Send it up to 8 metric tons. And we will do that. The whole agriculture system has to be modernized. The government machinery, the provincial machinery will be combined with the private sector. We are already talking with the private sector. They can go in, and even these agrarian centers will become farmer service centers where everyone can work together. We have a committee headed by Professor Senanayak of the Peradeniya University, where the private sector is involved. We are working this out. Then, in regard to this, we are also looking at fisheries, mainly inland fisheries that go with this, and to expand inland fisheries. Together with inland fisheries, of course, the land to be available. One reason for giving freehold title is that the farmers feel it's their land and we'll help them to increase their productivity. But that's not all. We are for large-scale agriculture. First, I look at the regional plantation companies. Some are doing well, others are not. We have to see what are the remedial actions we have to take. But more than that, we want to make 300,000 acres available for large-scale farming. I don't know if the private sector is ready to take it on. He is looking at it because all will have to be digitalized. So, farming, agriculture is main beneficiary. We have to combine the two. Which means the estates belonging to the state corporation, plantation corporation, we put out next year. Anything from about 150 hectares to 1,000 hectares. Then Mahaveli A and B, which has not been tapped, and part of C. Then the other lands available. We can use it also, Mahaveli, for food security for other countries, for island states who are interested. So this is agriculture. And yes, there was a question on milk production. No, these are the figures given to me by the new combine of Amul and Cargill's. What they are taking over, they'll go up 50%. Finally, there will be 200,000 animals giving 10 liters each. So that will be 20 million liters coming out of that. I took Ambavella from 1.6 million, 1,600 liters, it has gone to 55,000 liters. Now they have also taken over the Ridigam farm, and they are hoping to go up to a higher level, which works out today. They must be having about nearly 25 to 27 liters an animal, and they are already exporting. So there is a lot of scope when the others join in. So this is what, there is scope in agriculture. We are looking at inland fisheries first, then into commercial ocean fisheries. So this is a big sector to get into. That's why I've said agriculture modernization. Then the other low-hanging fruit is tourism. So we are looking at a different type of tourism, 5 million. We hope we get about $400 to $500 a night. So that has to be worked out. There are groups now with the trade who are working out the plans for tourism. So these were two big sectors that's available for. There are other areas. I need not say on manufacturing. We mentioned that we have to be competitive. We are going in, we are already discussing with India. We are talking with RCEP. We have already talked with some of the ASEAN countries, then the EU. So we have to be very, very competitive, which means you have to go to Industry 4 technologies. Let's skip all this because we can't compete as far as mass numbers are concerned with Bangladesh. There will be Myanmar that will open up. There will be other countries. There will be in India. So it's not possible for us to compete with them. So let's take a leapfrog and go there. Then you need the people. So we are going to do a complete change of the education system. That will take 10 years. But our focus now is on the universities. Just open them out. New universities. There will be 3 new universities, which NSB or more, private ones. Government will start 3 on the KDU model. Students can pay and we will give them the concessional loans. We are also talking with India for a campus in Kandy of the IITs, Chennai. So they are just opening the whole thing up. Provincial councils can establish universities, they can already under the law. Foreign universities can come in. So that's the big area that's working, and together with the private sector, we'll work on the skills development. Finally, we are looking at Sri Lanka as a regional logistic hub, because this is going to be the only main port that's available. And we are looking at developing the port on the north side after the present one is filled. We have a lot of scope. We are talking with India on developing Trincomalee. So we can become a regional logistic hub. We should work on it. So these are the plans to move forward to ensure that we reorient our economy, and that by 2030, 2035, we will have a very modern economy. Next to us will be India. India will grow fast. So we have to get the supply chains. We have to go in where we can. And the more nimble you are, the more opportunities you have. So that basically is the background to what has been, what we are planning to do. That's why I say the budget is only one part. We will go ahead. Let's say things get bad in Middle East, we have to revise it. Nevertheless, our major plan won't, certainly we won't abandon that. In the next 2-3 years, we are turning this around. We can't just depend on one budget to turn the economy up. Budget is only what the government is going to do, which will have an impact on the private sector and the financial world. But that's not the only issue. And as we grow, there will be more, as we grow, then our budget will also change, and as we grow, there will be a less demand on the private sectors by the government, because as your gross domestic product expands, there is far more capacity for taxation. This is why I came more than discussing the budget, to discuss what we are doing. So budget is only one part. There will be also other statements we have to make from time to time once debt sustainability is reached, and then the next steps. So what is important is what we are going to do, and the new laws that we are going to bring. Some have been mentioned in the budget. There are others outside it. So like what the Americans did, we thought that we should follow the same way, because the crisis was too big for us to deal it in one budget. You can't. You have to change. So that's what you have to realize, and that's what I came to tell here, is that we have to change, and this is the direction we are going in. So thank you very much for listening to me, and also I hope I have given sufficient clarification for the questions you have asked, and the Secretary to the Treasury will certainly take the rest up.
No, one of the key question is how differently would you overcome the challenge of implementation? Given last year budget, there was some opinion that most of the proposals were not implemented. How would you?
No, some of the proposals of that we revised. Since we are turning around so fast, we thought we need a new approach. That's why we didn't take some. But there are problems of implementation. So we are calling in the private sector. We'll call in for some other retired people. But then we are passing on the responsibility to the private sector as we open up. We will have some foreign assistance also. It's a question of mobilizing the country to go ahead. So it's all up to whether you are prepared to take it and go ahead. That's all. I mean, if you all don't go ahead, there's very little the government can do.
Thank you very much.
A gesture of gratitude is in order, ladies and gentlemen. May I invite Mr. Kulendran Sivaram and Mr. Nista Kasim to present tokens of appreciation to the President Ranil Wickremesinghe for accepting our invitation and being our keynote speaker and being here at the Budget Forum 2024. Your applause, ladies and gentlemen. May I hand over the proceedings to Mr. Nista Kasim while saying thank you to the President for attending the Budget Forum 2024.
For more latest news, subscribe to FTTV.